There we go. All right. Hi,
Awesome. Awesome.
Danielle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Nice to meet you. So, yeah, is anyone else joining us tonight or uh
Sadly, no. I thought Dan might have time, but he said he's been really busy, and so it'll just be us. And hopefully that'll work for this.
well, I mean, I'm so happy to have you because you are the one that I was mostly hoping to talk to, based on looking at, all these things that I received about the upcoming Vastum release. It seems like you're the one to talk to. So, I did want to ask a few things because I know that Daniel did the artwork and seems to be the one who takes the lead on that sort of thing. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I got a couple questions for you, but it's Friday night and I'm personally very tired as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Are you on the East Coast?
Yeah, I'm in
Okay. Yeah.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It is later there.
Yeah. Have you played here before?
Not with Vastum, but with other bands I have. Yeah,
Sick.
Hammer's Misfortune, I think, was out that way like 10 years ago or maybe more at this point. So
Do you
that
remember where that
was,
was? Yeah.
oh gosh, it was at some weird like courthouse thing. I remember like what it looked like. It was like somewhere downtown. There were like marble like columns and marble
Whoa.
floors, and so it was all like weird and echoey, and yeah,
Wow.
it was just
That's
in the lobby
wild.
of this venue that was like used to be a courthouse or something. I don't know if that was in the name of the venue. Anyway, it's been so long. I don't remember the name, but uh
Wild.
yeah, it was a bit odd.
Yeah, I must have missed that because I don't remember. I would have remembered a space like that. Um, yeah, and I saw that, you've got other projects under your belts as well. I'll try to stay sort of focused on talking about the new album because I did receive it already. I saw that other promos went out today, but I've had it for a few days, so I have just glowing feedback for you.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's admittedly I feel like it's been a really good year. There's been a lot of good death metal out there. So uh when I saw the release that it's coming out in November, November 10th, right?
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I have limited notes, and for Vastum, this is the fifth full length release, right?
It is number 5.
Number
Yep.
five.
Uh-huh.
Cool. So yeah, how does that feel for you? Are you excited? That's like less than a month away, 30 days or so away from release. So how are you feeling right now?
I'm excited about it. I'm really proud of the album. I think it stylistically it's exciting for me because it's like going in a slightly different direction, one that I'm really into. So that feels really good. Yeah, it's sort of like it's something I've been wanting to do with this band, but the band has this established sound, right? Like we've haven't strayed too far from the formula now for like we've been a band now 14 years, so it's been pretty sort of established and set. But to make sort of like little changes at a time feels really good because I feel like it's important to kind of keep our core sound, but also add new elements that fit and but that bring sort of this evolutionary unfolding. So yeah, I'm really proud of it.
That's great. I mean, and that's a balance of what the people want, which is what generally, I'm not to I don't take myself that seriously. Then I know that I've had instances where there's been a band that the first two albums or so I'm so excited about, and then something happens and changes happen and I'm no longer on board, and that means okay, maybe I'm not going to be into them anymore, and I've learned to sort of like live with that. um
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's kind of like what other projects are for, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's interesting when some bands just like are like, we're gonna just be a completely different genre now. Um, but what I like to just have separate projects for those things, like I have my solo project, which is sort of this cinematic ambient kind of thing, and then I have sort of this dark wavy electronic trio, Ionophore, and then I do like noise collabs. I do like all these different sort of like I'm actually going to be doing improv trumpet with a blues band at the
What?
end of this month, which is like something I've never done, but
That's wild.
was sort of this random thing that got offered to me, and I was like, "Yeah, why not? Let's see if I have it in me."
Have you played the trumpet is that like one of your things that is kind of
Yeah, yeah. So like I played trumpet as a kid, right?
uh
I was in the marching band and the jazz band and all
no.
that stuff. And
Mine was
then,
the flute for that. I was the flautist.
oh, you played flute? Yeah. Flute
Don't
was
tell
actually
anyone.
my first. No, oh, well, your secret's safe with me. Although this will be public, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but I played flute before I played trumpet, actually. So, and
It's a
then
breathing. It's a tough breathing instrument,
it's
all jokes
tougher than it
aside.
looks.
It's
Yeah.
tougher than it looks. So that's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah, I saw that you have noise projects on the go and that the synths on the album are something that you handle. Um yeah,
Me
so
and actually Gregory Hagen, who
oh,
is a guest on the record. He's my partner,
oh.
and yeah, and so he's got these really snazzy. He's got this Lyra 8 synth that makes these tremendous sounds. I
Oh.
that like the analog side of synth, I don't know super well. He knows a lot more than I do, and so he just kind of sent us all this stuff to work with, and so we picked sort of sections of what he sent, and it just worked really well with the songs that we threaded them into.
Okay. Okay. It's making sense because yeah, I've got a couple of tracks on the album that I get a little bit stuck on and that I like listen to on my walks. And I've got the Bandcamp open beside me right now so that I can just refer. um,
Right
so
on.
yeah, that makes sense because there is a sort of, and I'm trying not to spoil it for people who haven't heard it, but there's a sort of like interlude part that I was curious about because it really works really well. So if it's the fourth track, yeah, the track Judas, I thought it was it
Yeah,
worked
that's
really.
Gregory on that one. Yeah. Uh,
Okay. Oh, that makes so
uh,
much sense. That's
yeah.
so cool. That takes up a lot of space. Hey, all those analog synths, they're big old, not lots of knobs and whistles.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think I'm doing synths at the end of that, although I can't remember. Yeah, I think I just at the very end, but he's at the beginning. And yeah, I won't give the rest away. We both do synths in other parts of the album, but
Cool.
we've always had synths like since the second album. Like it's
Yeah.
just people haven't, or maybe it wasn't as prominent, but it was there definitely. There was even some trumpet um on a couple of the pieces too in the earlier albums. So
Yeah. And
not on
like,
this record, but the ones before. Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like where those things become like all that you remember and all that people talk about with an album is where those things are not so well integrated. I'm sort of thinking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, they're having these things, and that's what I love about this album. So yes, I'm so glad that I've gotten to be spoiled and already hear it, and I'm so stoked to tell everyone to listen to it. um to kind of pick into the album a little bit more. So Vastum is now comprised of yourself, Daniel, who we talked about a little bit already, and he's doing vocals along with yourself. And I've read a couple of prior interviews that you've done where you talk about the vocal interplay between you and Daniel, and I think that's really um it's really distinctive for the band. It's something that is not very I have not heard that very much, especially in death metal, to have just like such a well done integration of two people's vocals in that way. So yeah, I love that so much. And then we shouldn't forget that we also have Shelby, Chad, and Colin, right?
Yes,
Rounding out
they're all on the album. Yep.
this
Mhm.
is the so I wanted to ask about Colin particularly. So is he going to be the permanent bass player now? He used to be a live uh live bass, and now is he going to be the all the time bass?
Yeah, yeah. So he's been our bass player now for 2 years, actually. We just
Great.
haven't. We were in the process of writing and then recording and then playing live, but since he's been with us since we started playing live with him in early 2022. So it's been, yeah, year and a half, maybe a little longer. And yeah, he's our bassist now,
That's
which has
amazing.
been awesome. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And those
Great.
those guys like Chad and Colin are just like tireless. I mean, Mortuous is doing a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I like the
Necrot
Mortuous
just
album.
recorded a new album. Yeah,
You know,
so
speaking of integration of stuff, we can plug them away because they've got strings in death metal, and yeah, some people have ideas about that. And I heard the album and I was like, this is great. It's great. I love it. That's so cool.
oh cool. One
um
of them has strings on it. I didn't even know
the
that.
the Mortuous album, maybe I'm,
Okay. You
conflating
might know more than I
something.
do. Yeah, I
I
haven't gotten into the details about that. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
I've tried to not miss, but like I said, there's been so many good things spoiled for choice over here in terms of death metal. Yeah, so that's awesome. Have you been playing much since early 2022 then? Like, have you all been across the states, I guess, just in your area, or?
We've just played like a handful of shows and then we prioritized recording. And with Shelby out on the East Coast, it's been, it was a challenge, having to schedule times to rehearse and then set the recording dates. And uh, Greg Wilkinson, who we've been recording with, since the second album, he's gotten really busy. He plays bass for Autopsy now, and he's in Deathgrave, and he's, you
Oh,
know, his engineering, itself, he's like super like popular and packed all the time. So
what?
it's it's sometimes it's hard to integrate everyone's schedules and find time. So that's why it takes so long for an album to come out.
Oh my God, yeah. And to tour then is a whole other thing, like
Totally. Yeah.
insanity, yeah, to plan.
hmm Dan's getting his PhD, and I work a regular job on top of everything, and I've been touring with my solo project, and so I mean I haven't stopped. Like there's been no break with any like music. It's just been revolving. It's been shifting among projects. So
Yeah,
that's all it is. Like the project will change, but I'm still working on something every week, pretty much.
yeah. That makes me think of a question that I didn't like write down in my stupid little notebook. I'm sorry that I'm one of these people that I
Oh, I love it. Old school. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm so old school. Oh my God. I've got my watch too, and I'm just like, okay, it's 5:45 for you, and you've got, the rest of your Friday evening ahead of you. But in any case, I was gonna ask because you just said that. Do you find that that helps with like the kind of creative burnout on a project? Is that you kind of, like you said earlier, you've got different projects for different things, and all artists of all stripes are always talking about how occasionally they're, it's cyclical, right? And they have inspiration and then they don't. Do you find that that's the
Yeah.
case for you, that you go, you it helps with that, I guess, that it helps with
Oh
the burnout?
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you want it to feel fresh every time you work on something, or you want to go back to it with energy and purpose, right? So you're not just like spinning out and working and working and working and nothing's really coming together. But I've been doing this, I've been working on tons of projects. I've been rotating them now this way for, probably a good 15 years now, with all of the different bands I've been a part of, and that's really really helped with not getting. I hear so many people, especially death metal musicians, saying, "Oh, I'm so sick of metal. I want to do something else." And it's like, well, do something else, but you might miss death metal if you veer off in one direction for too long. But there is a way to do it all, just not all at the same time, but when you're
Yeah.
inspired. And I think that's sort of the secret, right? To keep going. And
Yeah. I love hearing that because that's exactly what and I talk to a lot of people who are, I guess, yeah, let's use the 15-year mark, you know, I like the term elder millennial. I like calling myself that, you know, but like I am a 39-year-old adult and I'm like, wow, I've been through waves of stuff. And for sure, sometimes I get that sort of exhaustion, especially when I'm trying to like critically review people's albums. Are you kidding me? It's terrible. That's why I prefer doing interviews these days, because rather than me saying for the fifth time, hey, this album is super awesome, the riffs are great and the breakdowns rock, like what am I going to say, like how many times in a row, right? So yeah, it's
Oh, I understand the difficulty of writing. I actually wrote professionally for a couple of years, not for like, you know, not for like music blogs or stuff like that, but for a video game that had a blog.
whoa.
And yeah, it was hard to do it every week, like think of a new idea, think of a new way to say something. And also like it takes me so long to write. Like there's some people that can just sit down and boom, they have it like, they have it all structured, they word it perfectly, and I'll just stare at a blank screen for hours, and then I'm working into the night, and I mean it was pretty intense doing that job. So hats off to you for like having done this a long time, and all the writers out there. It's really, really hard work, and
The
if you can
pros,
enjoy
the pros
it
are
and
gifted. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, you
yeah.
cut out a second there and I cut you off. Sorry.
Oh no, no, no. I mean, you're all are so gifted, and like it's not something to like take for granted. It's a
For
really,
sure.
really good skill to have. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. uh Segue to come back to where I'm stuck on the album. The second song has a few lines, and again, being mindful of trying to not be a spoiler, because this is not the song that was released as a single. The single that's been released is the fifth song, Indwelling Archon. It's
Mhm.
sick, but I personally really like this second song. And yeah, so I was gonna ask a little bit about some of the, traditional death metal stuff is there, about how do we want to put it, like
All the
esoteric,
phallic references.
all the phallic references, there's like gruesome graphic things happening, and how do you keep that fresh after, you know, five full-length albums now, and you want to keep exploring themes and making it interesting for yourself. So like what are some of the things that you kind of look to for that inspiration? Like maybe there's games or movies or something that you draw on for that. I don't know.
I have drawn on movies, not so much on this record, but most of the time it's like, what's my misery? What am I just like, what is the bane of my existence at the moment? And I
Yes.
write about it.
Yes.
And a lot of it's in that song. You picked a song that I wrote the music and the lyrics for. I'm sure maybe that was obvious, but yeah, yeah. There was a lot of stuff I needed to vent about, so that was the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know. I love when I am like, yeah, that one it really stands out. And the next track also has like the hook to it that also has me just stuck on it. So yeah, I'll be going on my walks and I'll just listen to those two tracks over and over again.
The second and
Uh
the third
the
one.
second and the third one, yeah.
Okay,
And
cool.
I've only had it for a couple of days. So yeah, big you know, like I find like the energy of songs like that. Also, it's funny that we talk about like balancing the different, you know, kinds of music and everything. And where I find that kind of energy is helpful is not just like people are like, oh yeah, I like to listen to death metal when I go to the gym. Yeah. For me, it's like when somebody's
I hear that
really
a
pissing
lot.
me off. Yeah. When somebody's really pissing me off, like in public or something, and I have one of those songs or something like that, it's usually like a part of a song like that. stuck in my head, and I can just be like, okay, I'm going to tune out to what this idiot is saying right now. And instead, I have this part of that song in my head, and that's where it comes in for me, and yeah,
Oh,
it
it
helps.
just pops in your head. It's like it's
I
not even playing anywhere. It's like
I
you
flip it
you're
on. I'm
looping
like,
it in your
nope.
mind. That's brilliant. That's awesome.
It works.
Power of music.
It works 90% of the time. The other
Awesome.
10% we'll figure out eventually. Do you have a favorite part or song? It's like how long are we talking? 7 tracks. Not super
Yeah.
long, not.
When is this interview coming out? Because
Oh,
if
how
it's
in depth do we want to? Yeah, I
well,
can
I mean,
wait.
like, yeah, like, are we trying to keep anything under wraps here right now, or is it like,
Not really. I
yeah?
mean, we've got a month, so I would say that I would probably put it out like near when near when the album comes out, near the 10th of May.
Okay, all right, so we can talk
Yeah.
about the songs.
Yeah.
Like, we can.
Yeah.
Okay,
I prefer
yeah.
that rather than being too, because people who are into Vastum are going to see it. They're going to see that artwork. They're going to see everything. They're going to hear that one song and they'll be like, yes, ordered. uh,
Let's hope. Let's hope.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the
Yeah.
part that you're hooked on?
I really my favorites. I mean, I guess I'm a little biased. They're like two that I wrote, two out of the three that I wrote.
So
Um,
track 2 and
well, actually, not track two. The
oh,
other two, I love
oh
track two. I mean, I love all the songs, but my absolute favorites are probably Corpus Fractum, which is the second single that's being released, and it's the longest song on the record.
yeah. Yeah. Shoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Sick.
that one is like that one I started working on like in 2020 and I didn't finish till like a few months before or even like a month before we were in the studio. So it was like,
In bath mode.
everything else was written a lot more quickly, but that one was just like, oh man, what are we doing with this? And it was also like it just marks a change in the sound. I mean, there's like it's really long. There's all these like synths and clean vocals and um it's not like there's like some interview samples on there and so it was really like a collaboration between me and Dan in a lot of ways. He wrote the lyrics for that and was the one that compiled the samples and stuff. So that was sort of like we were just sort of in the moment working on that as we were recording it in the studio. And then the idea for the clean vocals was like something that just popped into my head as I was listening back to the tracking after we were tracking it, and it just sort of came together like pretty well. So I'm really really proud of that. And
Yeah.
yeah, and
I was
it's
gonna
just
say the
got this. Yeah.
samples. Yeah, the samples were
Oh
what's. I was trying not to interrupt because
no
the
no no,
samples were
go
what
for it. Yeah.
stood out the most to me when I made it there, and I like, yeah, I looked at the length of that track, and I do this thing where I try to listen to each track individually, download them, and pay attention because, yeah, if I do the whole album start to finish, I kind of things can meld together, and then I don't know where I am. So yeah, I looked at the track length and I was like, oh geez, okay. And the samples just like, yeah, hit me really hard. Like, and again, so well done. I'm really picky with that kind of stuff too. I really don't like usually I don't like when bands do like spoken word, just kind of in there. Sometimes it's usually very hard to do well. And
Yeah, it's often done very poorly. That's true.
yeah,
Or it's just sort of slapped on and not really thought through. And yeah,
yeah.
I feel you on that.
Yeah, no shade to so many bands that have done those things this year that on albums that I really liked otherwise. And then there's just this
Oh,
part, but but the samples on yeah, Corpus Fractum is also such a good name for a track. Everything is like they're so good. Stillborn Eternity and like is such a good it's such a hooky song too. And yeah, so yeah, so generally is it you and Dan writing together, or is everybody writing together? Like
so it's historically worked like this. Musically, since Shelby joined in 2013 or whenever that was, he and I have split the writing 50-50 of the music on
Okay.
e every album since Hole Below. Um, Before that, Kyle, before him, he was our guitar player. He would write some songs. Luca would write some songs, and I would write some songs. But yeah, since Shelby joined, it's just been me and Shelby, and then Dan and I split the lyrics 50-50.
Got it.
So yeah, and so usually I write lyrics for songs I write, and Dan would write lyrics for songs Shelby writes, but we mixed it up this time, so that was a little more collaborative and more interesting, and you know,
Yeah.
sort of like just kind of working with the songs that we felt most inspired to write to.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the guiding force behind writing lyrics this time.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I I love that because yeah, it's after a while, like 2013 until now is that's yeah, quite some time. And you know, sometimes, people get sort of hung up with like, oh yeah, this band is they've been a band for so long, and it's like, okay, yeah, but what still makes them so great? Stuff like this is that you're letting go of some of the things that, used to be your go-to process and trying new things, and it's
Changing
keeping it
them
so fresh. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, totally. And the other thing that I love about working with Dan is that I'll he or I will write all the lyrics for a song, but then we make sure that both of our voices are heard on all of the songs. So it's never just me singing one whole song or him singing one whole song. It's like pretty evenly distributed, and that's sort of like you know, sometimes a trial and error kind of process, or sometimes we double up or trade off, and those are really fun when we get to trade off like one line, and it's super
Yeah.
fun to do live too. So
Well, now I that's such a good lead into sort of something I want to not dwell on it too much, but like, yeah, there was this previous interview that I read. I try not to, go too nuts on like, I heard the album. I knew that I was keen to, talk about it, but I really wanted to read this previous interview with you because I don't know, something about it was really interesting. And you said that live, sometimes there was this one festival that you were playing with Vastum, and live you were there coming up to before the show, and people were like not even acknowledging that you were in the band because they don't even realize that you're part of the band. And then you go up, you play the show, they realize it happens in front of their eyes, and they're like, oh fuck. And then the line that really struck me the most was like, oh yeah, and to them, like, I'm somebody because I'm like the vocalist in Vastum, I'm the person from Vastum. And holy fuck, like I almost cried. I was sitting there in like the cafe where I always sit, and I'm just like, oh my god, I can't believe how real that is, like how much that hits, how much I've heard it from not just musicians, like professionals in their fields, of many different fields. So yeah, I don't know if I have a question related to that, but I just wanted
yeah,
to tell
no,
you that
it's
was
it's
like,
real, and it's
yeah.
it's like I mean it's happened like my whole adult life in some form, since I've been playing music. Yeah, I think music's really the only area where that's happened in my life. But yeah, it's gotten to the point where it's just like it's something I can just laugh at now, because it's like, well, all right, this says more about you than about me, and your assumptions are your assumptions, um and maybe I've like, maybe this experience has changed you somehow, or like changed the way you think, or changed your
Yeah.
assumptions about the world. And if so, that's great. Like I've done my job. But you know
Yeah.
otherwise I just enjoy the spectacle of it all, really. It's like, no, it's funny to see people's like facial reactions change before they know you're in the band, and then after they realize they're talking to like someone in their favorite band or something. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like they become this total different person. And
Yeah.
It's like okay, all right, maybe you wanna think about how you see the world going forward, but
Seriously. And like in school, like in university, I studied psychology. And so this sort of stuff is absolutely just fascinating to me. I can just go on about it for days. And like I've been blessed, like I could sit here and tell you like my whole life experience, but like, by the time I was a teenager, new metal was a thing. And so it was starting to become more like out there, and sort of mostly everyone was listening to it. It was still sort of a weird thing in my high school, there were like a few of us who listened to it and not really everybody else. But still, at least I wasn't the only person and I didn't have to worry about that sort of thing. Um, yeah, it seems to be getting better slowly, ever so slowly, like, seeing more different types of people just like across the board, like, and yeah, death metal I feel is always going to be one of the sort of last bastions of that. But um
and
on-
noise maybe. I think
and
noise
noise
is
maybe.
worse actually.
There's some pretty cool
There are a lot of like non-cis men noise artists out there, more now than ever, but yeah, it's I think I know more women and non-cis men in metal than I do in noise or ambient actually.
yeah.
I don't know why, but that's been my personal experience.
I'm trying to think about it now, and I'm gonna make myself crazy trying to think about it. We're pretty good. Like Toronto has a pretty good like sort of like we're sort of starved for small venues these days, the sort of places where noise shows thrive. But I think it's pretty good. Seeing as I've got like a friend putting on a noise gig next week, so I'm gonna say that's a good bar to say it's not so bad here. Cool. Being very aware of the time, Layla, before I have to say, farewell and have a nice evening. And I really, again, thank you so much for not just putting out a great album, but just, for, having that attitude, like that very what I think is the most death metal thing, which is to not care about if you're just how people are looking at you. If you're like going off into some other direction and doing some other flavor of music, people might say, oh, well, you're not really that death metal anymore. It's like, no, fuck you, I'm even more now than I was before. So thank you
Yeah.
for that.
I sometimes don't think I'm death metal enough for my bandmates, so there you go. Maybe deep down they feel that way, but they probably wouldn't say it to my face.
No, probably not, and probably not on both counts. Yeah, so there was one thing that I kind of wanted to pry about, which is, could we hope to see Vastum live? Is that part of the long-term plan? New album is coming out. Is that, might we see you on the East Coast?
Fingers crossed. We got invited to some festivals in the next year, um, but unfortunately, we have to build our live lineup back together because sadly, Shelby left the band right after the recording, and so we're auditioning guitarists at the moment. And if if that comes together, we have some strong contenders in the pipeline. Then we'll be ready to roll for next year. But we'll see.
I
It's got
can't
to
adjust
be.
my glasses and raise my eyebrows enough at that. Oh my God, that's tantalizing news. Okay, good to know. Great way to end off. And yeah, I look forward to seeing, everyone else's reactions as the album comes out in the next less than 30 days, November 10th. But yeah, I will probably only publish the full length of this interview closer to that date. Maybe some teasers before then.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
great.
Cool. Okay, thank you so much, Layla. Pleasure talking to you. And yeah, I'm gonna go maybe blast the album a little. Maybe it's a little late already. It's 9 o'clock here. My neighbors might be pissed.
That sounds good to me. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Danielle. Good to talk to
Cheers.
you.
Good talking
All
to
right.
you. Night.
Bye.
Bye.